TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 1st of March. Well, and not surprisingly, within that continued weakness, but still the support, we still held up decently. The MBI reading still had magenta over yellow, but with white leading. So the potential for softness, short-term buyers continued to push through just enough to provide support to keep things from completely breaking down. And again, my view was that the NASDAQ would be the critical factor on that. We finished on the lower side of the range. You can see in pre-market, we've already retested down to the 38% on the S&P and have bounced back from that. When we look at the NASDAQ from its view, is far less. So that minimal reaction, enough to keep things going. You see a nice rise here from the magenta, but again, becomes critical, and we'll see it earlier on the 50K or 5K charts. Any pivot on that magenta will definitely cause some difficulties, particularly when we look at the steel here. It's still below the zero level. Pivot lower in that case would definitely push to the 50% and potentially even below it. As long as it stays intact with where it is, okay, but I'm noticing that pivot up of orange, which would not be a great viewpoint for moving forward. Treasuries coming down to the bottom, but reversing there as more money comes into treasuries, and the more that tends to be the case, I think it makes it harder and harder for the market to really be able to explode unless they can suck in enough shorts to really help drive that forward. Oil staying at this consistent level again, while it helps in sustaining, limited price activity, is not any relief. And without that relief, you're not going to get an excitement from a business standpoint. And again, that's where we get this staggered view of the economy. Some parts doing better than others, and others not doing as well. And certainly now that we've had much more time to expand upon interest rates and that, I think that housing is going to become much more relevant, and what we start seeing in that sector really becomes significant. And whether discounts and or deals are being made to help encourage people to stay in the market, I think that's going to be important going forward as to how things start to shake out and whether or not they can be weathered without a deep recession, as many have predicted for a long time. I think we've been in one in a form of static to weak or almost non-existent growth, but that's better than having things fall apart. And of course, there's the turnaround back for gold. It was long expected. This had gotten excessive, and we already know that when DOC read and that get below the 25 or down to, well, actually it's 23 level range, usually you get some kind of pushback. And will it be able to break above that 23% and hold? It's got everything it needs. You've got the orange dip. The problem is with that deep move from the shakeout as well as from the DOC, likely you get the little move up, then it retraces again, and then we look to see if that retrace is going to be a little bit higher low, and that second move would be the one where you would get a significant carry through. Euro popping back. It's going to continue to do this. Is the range they have to maintain, and the Fed's going to do whatever is necessary from a liquidity standpoint in the backside. Capital flight from Europe really becomes an important test. Bitcoin stabilizing again, well above that 22 threshold. So that was a powerful indication right there that there's still plenty of support to be found, and good enough that if you get a turnaround here, we can see that next explosion, which I figured would take to the new highs, and ETH following suit a little bit behind, but again, it was better off than Bitcoin on the retrace, so it's sort of just evening out. For a 50K, yes, we've got our charts fine. It took forever, but everything worked. All the little short setups that came through worked down fine and cleared out. Red still leading, so pivot down here of magenta and white take the lead. We would see some continued weakness. Looks like if we hit the 50% from a 50K standpoint, it's hitting a little resistance. From a 5K standpoint, we see it kind of clearly. We expected these kind of swings, and this is exactly where we're going. When you have 1 weak hand, bulls force it up, take out all of the shorts in that, but they don't have enough steam to continue the process, and then shorts reignite, and boom, we keep coming back and forth. And so this was some pretty clean action from a paint bar standpoint, and you can see we get the nice runs on both directions. Finally, at the end of the day, caught a little bit of a wave, but as soon as that tired out, you can see not only did we come back, Phil couldn't find any additional support on the last attempt, and that created new selling that just brought us all the way back to the same levels. And you can see these are all previous outlet levels. I haven't changed them. You hit them as resistance, get slight deviation to the upside of them, and then when the big ranges are, it just fills in, which is nice because then you're able to really get a good gauge for filling those in. Now we had some positive extremes intraday that were pretty darn close to the existing ones, so that it was slightly lower to the lows right in here. Not a surprise. I mean, you can adjust them as necessary. I like to leave some of these on here so you can see the long-term power of how the price just comes back to those, especially in a mean reversion market, which the S&P traditionally was until the Fed, took it over in '08. That we saw some normalization a little over a year plus ago, and this is the effect of that. So we dipped all the way down to the lower range of this previous algo level down there at the 57, and immediately they bought it back up here in the post market because again, it just clears any of the short hands that had stops, and you just clear them out. And then as they start to fill in, it drives things up. But then we'll see if there's anything to sustain it going forward right through there. So indicators will be out for everyone. So you'll be all set for US Open. Trade well. We'll talk again later. Look for me on the Skype chat.